For Serbs, Kosovo is the cradle of their civilization. For Albanians, they see themselves as the descendants of the first people who lived there. But as Yugoslavia broke up in the 90s, the majority Albanians dreamed of an escape from their mostly Serb rulers. Rebels began attacking Serb targets, leading to severe fighting on both sides. Serb forces accused by the UN of ethnic cleansing and a systematic campaign of terror. As thousands of Albanians fled in 1999, NATO began a series of aerial bombardments of Serb targets, and the war finally came to an end. A peace agreement led to Serb forces withdrawing and a UN-backed administration taking over before full independence finally came in 2008.
Kjo ditë erdhi. E nga sot e tutje, Kosova është krenare, e pavarur, sovrane dhe e lirë. Familja ime, sikur se tuajat, dhe të gjitha familjet në tërë Kosovën, nuk u luhaten kurrë dhe nuk u humbën asnjëherë besimin për ne. Besimin e Zot, drejtësi dhe fuqi.
Well, now Kosovo is only recognised by 114 of the 193 UN states. KFOR troops deployed by NATO monitor sensitive areas, and the European Union supports the legal system through EULEX. And yet it remains something of a dysfunctional state, as old ethnic tensions regularly flare up. Unemployment is amongst the highest in Europe. The country relies on $600 million a year in aid, and it is the centre of much trafficking, including of organs. Well, last year alone, 100,000 Kosovans left the country in an attempt to join the European Union. Severine Bardon and Michael Stonk revisit Kosovo for France 24.
"18 years after the war between Serbs and Albanians, Europe's youngest country is still binding its wounds. Since the end of the conflict in Kosovo, STIP has been travelling all over the country to identify the victims and piece together their story.
Up until now, no one can tell you how many people has died in Kosovo. They did research, but it has been only in local level. In level of all Kosovo, we are the only one that are doing this. We included all Albanians, Serbs, and members of other ethnicities in Kosovo.
In the war, over 13,000 people died and 1,600 are still reported missing.
Hello, how are you? Does Harjudan live here?
Yes.
Can I talk to him?
Yes. Hello and welcome.
Deported by the Serbian police in the spring of 1999, this Kosovar Albanian couple had to leave behind Haryadin's mother, who was unable to walk.
Has your mother been identified?
No, she's still reported missing.
Let me make a note of that. Have you given blood for a DNA test?
Yes, we have. Her sister gave blood, as did my sister and I. I feel like I have a weight of 100 kilos on my shoulders. If I could find her, I'd feel like I'd finally got rid of that load.
If we could just have even some indication of where her body is. Otherwise, she's only in our heads, in our minds.
The legacy of the war weighs heavily on all Kosovo. In this Albanian cemetery, the tensions between the communities are unmistakable.
Says family remembers him, killed by barbarian police, Serbian police force. That's the main goal. We are doing all this. So once they recognize that all those people were killed during that period of time, we think that it will help it will lead to reconciliation between two nations.
But reconciliation is proving elusive. Mitrovica, at the heart of the discord, is a divided town. Its southern part, looking towards Albania, is Muslim, uses the Latin alphabet, and pays in euros. But in the north of the city, the Serbian flag still flies. People write in Cyrillic, pay in Serbian dinars, and pray in Serbian Orthodox churches. Between the two sides lies the Austerlitz Bridge. It is the symbol of a town torn between the two communities and is under intense surveillance. Even today, it's impossible for a Kosovar Albanian to live in the northern part of the town.
That's my flat on the first floor. I can't live in my own flat because you never know what's going to happen. Everything might be calm for 2 or 3 months. Then suddenly, there'll be an incident, and we'll have to barricade ourselves in, like in prison.
In the last year, some 100,000 Kosovars have tried to leave Kosovo in search of a better life elsewhere in Europe. Among them, Dritan. Most have had their request for asylum turned down.
These documents were given to us by the Finnish government, so that we could go back to Kosovo.
Sent back to Kosovo, the family had to find accommodation in another part of Mitrovica, in the Albanian quarter.
Before we left, we had work. We led a normal life, but we weren't safe. We begged the government to do something, but nothing was done.
I'll leave Kosovo at the first opportunity.
With the unemployment rate at 70% in Mitrovica, the outlook is bleak. Perhaps even more so for the Serbs, who feel alienated in a country with which they do not identify.
It's a police report dated yesterday. I don't know, it wasn't much. 2.5 kilos. Is that okay?
Every day, this journalist, based in northern Mitrovica, closely observes Kosovo's Serbs.
I think that every single citizen from Kosovo is really saying, okay, I'm a Serb from Kosovo and we are part of Serbia. On the other hand, a bunch of them do have Kosovo ID cards. But on the other hand, we were pushed to pick them up because a lot of stuff we cannot do without them. What I can say is that they don't really see the Kosovo government as their government and as the body that could really help them improve their lives.
The Serbs represent about 6% of Kosovo's population. The tensions with the Albanian majority are so bad that it is still necessary for NATO troops to be present.
Okay, please call 2.2, they are on spot. Yes, thank you. Bye, bye.
Lionel Franier is on his 3rd mission to Kosovo. A Swiss soldier, he's learned to live with local sensitivities.
During the commemorations of the bombing later this month, we'll certainly avoid going to the north, so that we don't stir up any animosity with the people. But I would say that in general, the people see us as an LMT, that's liaison and monitoring team, and not as an army of occupation or whatever.
Immediately after the war, 55,000 KFOR soldiers were deployed in Kosovo. Today, they are only 4,300 for what is essentially just a monitoring mission.
You can't see the building materials here.
No, from down below I couldn't see them, only from up here.
In fact, this zone here, Khoivitakut, is multi-ethnic. A lot of Albanian houses were destroyed during the war. When the Kosovo Albanians tried to rebuild, the Kosovo Serbs stopped them from coming back. You can see here the building materials that have been destroyed, despite the fact that the people had permission to build houses here. A few angry people destroyed the building materials as a protest.
In recent months, the number of provocative incidents on both sides has increased. A reflection of the international situation, according to the commanding officer of NATO forces in Kosovo.
We have seen all the main countries in the region, the Western Balkans, being subject to some sort of changes or some sort of evolution due to local elections or different levels of economy. You always feel the impact of geopolitical changes because the Western Balkans are a joint between the West and the East. Therefore, whatever is happening in the West has a reflection here, and whatever happens in the East has a reflection as well.
The strategic importance of Kosovo, torn between Europe and Russia, explains why the country is still under international supervision. Today, inside this brand new law courts building, financed by the European Union, a trial for corruption is taking place. It's a local issue, but the judges and public prosecutor are all foreigners.
We have 3 interpreters today. And we all need to speak as slowly as possible, so to say, without it affecting your own speech, and both recorders can record it. Goes for me too.
The European Union invests massively in Kosovo, over €1 billion since the war. Its EULEX mission, that encompasses the police and local justice, has just been renewed for at least another 2 years.
Kosovo has shown considerable progress. This is why we are in the process of handover. But I would say that still Kosovo has to fight certain political interference in the judicial system, and that will be a biggest challenge that Kosovo is currently trying to overcome. If you have a rule of law system, when somebody is above the law, then you don't have rule of law. It's for everybody, and it has to be the same.
Hijacked by ex-war leaders and riddled with corruption, the politics of Kosovo appear headed inexorably towards paralysis. But a new generation is emerging that wants to change the established order.
We are dealing with authoritarian politicians who have become stronger and stronger, both economically and politically. And this is where I think the EU has failed this region, because it has turned a blind eye on some leaders which they thought could bring stability, but on the other side they were getting richer and richer. And now they become too big to bring down or to leave the post. So this remains one of the key problems.
Spent Ameti is a 39-year-old graduate of Harvard and has been mayor of Pristina for 3 years. He has launched several major infrastructure schemes, including a new water treatment plant for the capital city.
All the opinion polls, even the most recent ones, 3 months ago, showed that the main worry of Pristina's citizens, even more than unemployment, was the shortage of water. That's why I'm so upbeat today. Because from now on, we'll be able to take a shower or drink a glass of water from the tap at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Pristina might be seeking membership of the European Union, but until now it has had no running water at night.
I could resign today and do something else.
Really good to be.
But much still remains to be done. The hope is that the post-war generation will give fresh impetus to the country. And it is certainly what Bekim Blackeye wants. His NGO goes from school to school, raising students' awareness of the history of their country and preparing them for the challenges that lie ahead.
Does the number of Serbian victims include the policemen and soldiers killed by NATO?
80% of the victims of the conflict were civilians. They were killed or reported missing. As regards Serbian nationals, the percentage changes a little. Civilians are still in the majority, representing about 52% of Serbs killed or reported missing. 48% are members of the army or the police.
The new generations are learning about past, about the wars of 90s in a biased way, in a nationalistic way, and because of that, the division among youth in different nationalities is getting bigger and bigger, and that is a problem of our future. They are learning totally different narratives about past, and their prejudice towards others is getting bigger, and I'm afraid that in this way we can face in the future another conflict.
In this school, the message is clearly getting through.
We learn things about both sides, about victims that are not Albanians, about crimes committed by Albanians as well, during and shortly after the war. Generally, books only talk about the Albanian side. They never talk about crimes against the Albanians.
A first step towards recognition of the past. Even though the road to reconciliation is full of pitfalls,
currently, the situation is not favorable for unification between the north and the south of Kosovo, but I think that in the future it will get better.
At least we hope so.
1/3 of the population of Kosovo is under 15. If it is to break the vicious circle of hatred between communities, it is upon this generation that Kosovo will have to pin its hopes. A generation able to digest the lessons of history and look at last towards the future.
Séverine Bardon and Michael Stonk revisiting Kosovo for France 24. Well, that's all for this week's edition. Don't forget, of course, you can catch it and all our previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More editions coming up. Stay tuned to France 24.